It's been an interesting semester of virtual learning for teachers and students. What do you see as the biggest challenge the school has faced in the first half of the year?
Eve, you're absolutely right. It has been a huge challenge. I think it's interesting if you go back and look at, and I think about this from the teacher's perspective back in August when we started talking about getting ready for virtual learning, because all we knew at that point was what we had done last spring. And then we were getting ready for this whole new world of virtual learning with Schoology and Zoom and just a lot of unknowns, really. So when I think about that from a teacher's perspective of what it looks like now in comparison to how it started, they've learned a tremendous amount. They've learned what really has worked. They've also learned probably what hasn't. And I think that really gives them the experience. Like, you can't substitute anything for experience. So the fact that they've got a semester under their belt, a class under their belt, that helps them move forward in terms of understanding how to approach next semester.
One of the biggest challenges was getting materials out to students and knowing what materials to send home. We have lesson plans by the dozens, thousands that we have used over the years, but which ones could we implement and what materials can we send home safely with students was a big issue at the start of the year.
I think from the student's perspective, it's similar. Again, not having any idea what what it would look like in a virtual world, and then, as you know, things start to normalize a little bit, and then they become somewhat routine. So I think they know for the most part what to expect, but I also realize that there's still gaps and things we have to address, trying to make it better for both teachers and students next semester.
It's definitely been an interesting year with it because I think the first challenge was just trying to adapt to it because I'm more of a social person in general, so it was harder to try to learn those aspects of virtual learning. I think once I created kind of a routine that I do for my classes, it became easier to work with them.
What has surprised you the most about the virtual learning environment and how people have responded to it?
I would put it in the two categories again. Looking at it from the teacher staff perspective, I've just been amazed at the innovation that teachers have used and how to connect with kids. And a lot of it obviously has to do with the use of technology, looking at how they utilize breakout rooms to work with students. All those things were pretty foreign to people walking into this year. So I think really creative ways that teachers have been able to still connect with kids. And on the student side, I just applaud them for being resilient. I applaud all of you for your ability to weather through what has been probably the most challenging time you can think of growing up, and what it's like to navigate school and the social side and the lack of things that are missing in your lives, to then still come and be engaged in school and still try to learn the material and try to replicate an educational experience in high school the best you can.
Is that everything about school that I found really exciting and really fun, really engaging, like extracurriculars and social interactions, it was all taken away, unfortunately. And that made doing schoolwork and, getting to classes, getting your work done on time, that actually made it really tough because, it was hard to find motivation when the only thing I was doing was looking at, a computer screen. And a way that I kind of worked around that problem was I made sure that I gave myself way more than enough time to get my stuff done. So, just to take procrastination into consideration and to schedule out everything that I had to do and make sure that nothing was missing.
So I think what surprised me the most is the ability for students to be creative in their home environment and find a spot in their house that was dedicated towards that, and the support of their families to honor that space as well is important.
Can you share something you learned from the first half of the year that might change the way we approach online learning in the second semester?
I think one of the things that we look at is we've tried to really give leniency, because we are, and I remind myself, I remind my staff all the time that we're in a pandemic. These are, again, uncharted, unprecedented times. And within that, we try to give a lot of leniency and flexibility and empathy in terms of both staff and students, in terms of whether it be assignments, what we expect. I think looking at how we've had this somewhat open window of expectations for deadlines of things probably hasn't been the best approach, because it's left open a huge time period as to when things are due. And I think a lot, I think the world is predicated about deadlines. Again, I think we have to keep in mind it's a pandemic and flexibility and that kind of thing, but having a little more structure to what it looks like for when assignments are given and when they're due, so it's not this race to January 15th to get stuff turned in. I don't think that's healthy for anybody.
There isn't usually a set date where like each individual assignment needs to be turned in. It's mostly just before the end of the semester. And I think that that's really good because obviously it gives students a lot of time, and it can really help them to make sure that they get everything done. But I also think that it also doesn't give students any motivation to get their work done, and it makes it so they have a lot to do at the end.
But it's also been nice with certain aspects because you have more time to work on projects than you would in class, or you just have like whenever you're able to work on the project, you can.
The biggest concern my staff has, and I'm sure students feel this as well, is that while we're building relationships, which is a huge part of being in school, in classrooms, it's still so hard through Zoom, and it's even more difficult when cameras aren't on, in the sense that it's kind of pick and choose as to when people decide to show themselves and so forth. And it's really hard. It's hard on teachers. I think it's harder on the students. I recognize the idea that we're coming into your house, your living room, right? And I think we always want to be mindful of not putting students in a bad situation in relation to that. I know people talked about the use of green screens and other things. So I think trying to figure out how do we, we always are trying to engage students in classes. How do we really make it so that, we feel like that can start off on a positive foot second semester?
I miss all the noise and hubbub, which is pretty funny because I'm a rather quiet person and like the quiet. But the energy of the noise and the creativity of the students in my classroom it's hard not to have here. And so when students don't show their faces or don't show me what they're working on as we're working, it like makes me want to pull my hair out because that is so essential to the creation process. And I get, as an artist, inspired by them, their creative energy, the way that they solve their problems. And so I really miss having that, as well as those just little off the cuff conversations that you have, just being in the classroom, whether it's about clay or it's about, just something that happened yesterday. So yeah, I just miss having them around.
What positive things have come from this experience? How might those things impact how we move forward?
The old traditional way of having lots of homework and grading and so forth. I don't know that that's something that, sometimes it feels like you're just trying to get a grade rather than really truly understand what students know. So I think really looking at feedback as an important part of this, so that students actually do understand and grow within what they're learning, as opposed to just trying to get a grade. I think that's an important consideration moving forward.
I know that it was a struggle for a lot of students, but the projects that I have received back into the building, and some of them are behind me, have been phenomenal, indicating that that excitement to create is something I want to continue to nurture and grow not with them on a regular basis, whether they're in my classroom or at home.
Can you give us a hint at when students might start returning to school for in-person learning?
Dr. Haas, the superintendent, makes a recommendation at some point in the near future as to whether or not we should go to stage 4. I think at some point, certainly with the COVID numbers going down and things getting better with vaccines and so forth, that hopefully is on the horizon for second semester. If the school board says yes, that they approve going to stage 4, then there's another week or two of us getting ready. What we would end up doing is teachers would have a couple work days to get ready the first of the week, like on a Monday and Tuesday, because you got to keep in mind, teachers haven't been in the building either. Some come in here to teach from the building, but most of them are at home or wherever they're doing their classes. So they're going to have to get ready to actually be here physically to have kids in the building. So there'll be a couple of days of a work day. And then the plan would be that Wednesday, Thursday, which would be the first rotation, we would have our freshmen come in first. Freshmen have not even entered the building, right? We are halfway through a school year, and except for a few that have taken SOLs, they've never been in the building. So we want our freshmen to have almost like an orientation to the school and get a chance to come in their classes and rotate and that type of thing. And then the following week, we would rotate, Monday, Wednesday students come in, and then Tuesday, Thursday students come in. So we have, just so everybody knows, about 850 students that have indicated they want to come in. Their families have said that they feel that that's what they want to do when we go hybrid. And so what we do is we split that up from the 850 to make that in half. So roughly 425 come in Monday, Wednesday, and then 425 come in Tuesday, Thursday. And we do that to start alphabetically. So I think right now it looks like A through L and M through Z or something similar to that. And then that's how we'll do the rotations. And we have to balance that to make sure that we don't have too many students coming in a particular class, just by the way the alphabet falls. So we'll be doing some adjustments to that as well. And our goal really is to, for those students who are coming in a hybrid setting, is to make sure that we have at least 3 of their 4 teachers physically here present. The reason I can't guarantee 4 out of 4 is I have some teachers who have, accommodations and so forth that have to remain virtually, so it's not a perfect match. But we want our students to be in front of teachers if they choose hybrid, and I think we can at least make it so that the majority and more of their classes, they'll have that teacher here.